morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, June 27th, 2023. Exactly 1 week till the 4th of July. And we're going to talk today about crazy stuff. In the Garden of Eden, the Bible records that man and woman had no wants. The garden provided for them food, shelter, and sustenance. God provided for them companionship. The animals of the earth were also companionship between God's visits to the garden. Many philosophies of the world in our religions and such record, bitch, that's my shit. Damn Cadillac, bitch. They record that we have a hole in our soul that cannot be filled. And that's why we have addictions. That's why we have obsessions and things like that. The thing is that God made that hole specific. That's why it cannot be filled. But God also gave us free will. And in that free will, God gave us the choice of what to fill that hole with. We could fill it with food. We could fill it with entertainment. We could fill it with hatred and war. We could fill it with desires, with possessions, with all manner of idols in the world. And I do mean idols. When you begin obsessing about anything, money, power, property, which property in our Constitution in America is the pursuit of happiness. But the one square peg that fits that square hole that God designed is God. We are to fill that hole with God. Now, how is it that God created us and, God time is the same belief in time that was happening in the Garden of Eden. time in the Garden of Eden is very short in the Bible. But it is believed that before God made woman, Adam was in the garden for if not multiple, hundreds of years, naming the animals and tending to the garden. And of course, worshiping God. And man worshiped God in his presence, and he worshiped God through the tasks charged to him by God, which was naming the animals and tending the garden. Now, as a person, man is fairly smart, makes his own decisions, and is held accountable for those decisions. But when you introduce people tend to be less intelligent. You would think the introduction of two minds and two ways of thinking would give you a more rounded decision. Instead, they don't round up to the next common denominator. They tend to round down to the lowest common denominator. Then you get complacency. When man was cast out of the garden and had to make his own way in the world, as hard as the land was, it provided. And man thrived. After the flood, land was still hard. Man thrived. But man had a choice in all of this. Even after expulsion from the garden, man still worshiped God. And because man had had a relationship and continued to have a relationship with a God that was active and performed miracles to show itself. Nowadays, we rarely see pillars of fire come from heaven and engulf and take up an offering. Although I do think it was quite interesting that the church, 2 days after having a Pride celebration, was burned to the ground after being a church for over hundreds of years. That's the finger of God, guys. The devil, the enemy, Satan, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him, he goes by many titles. The great deceiver, the great liar. Knows we have choice. And he preys upon that choice. And, you know, just because you don't, quote unquote, look at porn or indulge in gambling or any other vice that's out there, doesn't mean you're not a sinner. Because we were born into sin. You know, a lot of the libtards out there are pushing white privilege and because we were born white, we are by default racist. A baby, a little white baby born 10 minutes ago is racist simply because of its birth. You want to know the real truth of that statement is that baby, the baby next to it, and 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 the baby in the next country, and the other babies on the planet were born sinners. It's not systemic racism. It's not white privilege. It's systemic sin. And our society has made it systemic. We have, even on basic TV, not even cable, if all you've got is an antenna that will receive basic TV, you're still seeing images that are promiscuous. Billboards on the side of the road. I'm pretty sure you've all seen the dark tanning salon signs with a pretty girl on it. Sex sells. Despite, what society says, oh, it's harmless, it's harmless. No. Systemic sin is a thing. And the only cure for that systemic sin is the grace of God. The only cure for the hole in our soul is the grace and praise and worship of God. It's funny. That 3-letter word cures so much in society. God, Yahshua, Jesus, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the Trinity. That is the square peg that fits the square hole in our soul. That is the very simple, very easy, the light yoke, as Jesus once described it. His yoke is light. It's God. Three letters. 3 in 1, guys. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. The Holy Trinity. In 3 letters. God. Get you some. Let's go, Brandon.